Hello JSConf, how are you doing? Did you have a good day? Did you have a really good day? I would like to ask you to give a big hand to the organizer for putting together this fantastic event. Thanks very much. And thanks for the beautiful intro, Carolina. So my name is Lena Reinhard. I'm at LRNRD on Twitter. It's very hard to remember, so I got it on the slides. And I'm leading the design and platform engineering team at Travis CI. So if you want a Travis sticker later, come find me at the party. I'm also a writer, a photographer, and, well, I'm a speaker, which also brings me to the reason why I'm here today. This is a talk about debugging, about the tech industry, and most of all, this is a talk about you and me. Let's start by talking about software bugs. What are bugs? Bugs are errors, flaws, or failures in software that cause it to produce incorrect, undesired, or unexpected output. A bug can be many things, like a performance problem, configuration issue, an issue with functionality, or a system error. At all points in our development cycle, we can end up with bugs in our software or systems. So we need to debug it. We need to find and resolve these defects. And with increasing complexity of our software and systems, debugging becomes more and more difficult, like with these bears here. The system that I want to talk to you about today is more than code. It's a complex system that's grown over many years, a system that we're all part of and that we all contribute to. The system is the tech industry. In order to debug a system, we need to understand it. And to understand a system, there are a few things that we can do. We can look at each individual component of the system. We can look at how all components interact, and we can look at the system output. So let's take a look at the tech industry as a system, at its components, their interactions, and output. I'll show all of that to you in a simplified Venn diagram. The tech industry has a few major components. We have communities like free, Libre, and open source software communities. And here you can see one sample community. There are also companies, from a few people who just launched a startup to giant corporations. And like any system, the tech industry doesn't exist in isolation. With all its components, this industry is also part of our societies. And then there's one more component, one human like you and me. You and me, each of us, are one individual component in this system. We are the smallest entity, but our role is important. All of us are part of communities, companies, this industry, and all of us influence them, and we are influenced by them. Some of us contribute to open source projects, and software licenses determine how our work can be reused and distributed. We also work on products and projects in companies, and these companies determine how we work, what we work on, and how we're compensated. We also decide how systems are designed and which code is written. And our own social norms determine the way we think and the way we make decisions, and so forth. But a system is more than just the sum of its parts. All these components are intertwined and they accumulate characteristics of other components. And together, all of them influence the tech industry as a system. And they produce output. This output is the software we build. And each and every one of us influences this output, no matter if we're aware of it or not. Who of you all is a software developer, designer, project manager, or works on software in any other way? Hands up. That's almost the whole room. Who of you has ever harmed a user of your software with something you did? It's probably 20 people or so. And who of you is not sure if you've ever harmed a user with something you did? We can never know for sure, can we? All of us need to care about the impact of our work, as individuals and as an industry. And here's why. As a still relatively young industry, we have accumulated a massive amount of influence within a very short time. Our work has impact, and with impact comes responsibility. These impact and responsibility are constituted through 4 major factors. First of all, there's ubiquity. Software systems are ubiquitous in all aspects of public and private institutions. Software is running on everything from computers to juicers, smoke detectors, and washing machines. Software systems also lie at the heart of modern decision-making. Algorithms decide how much our insurance will cost us, whether we get credit or not, and whether we're potential criminals. But do we really know where our software is run and what it's used for? Our impact also comes with our role and with scale. For most tech companies, the world is our addressable market, and there are only few geographic constraints for where we can do business. We can build things for a lot of very different people. But do we really know what all users of our software are like? Impact and responsibility also really comes with our role. Software development is an act of representation. It means we need to provide solutions to actual problems that people are facing. But do we know what people really need? And do we even want to know? And our impact, lastly, comes through dependency. People rely on and trust software, not because they choose to trust it, but because they usually don't have a choice, because they depend on it to achieve what they need to achieve. If people don't use social networks or messenger apps, access to friends or family becomes more difficult. If websites aren't accessible, disabled people can't get access to information that they need. But how do we all handle the fact that people depend on us? Ubiquity, scale, representation, and dependency. All these factors lead to the giant impact of our work and our responsibility for it. So what does our software do to people right now? What does our system output as an industry look like? Software can have positive impact on people's lives. It can help people connect with others, get access to information or support, help them get where they need to go, and so much more. Software can empower people, and that's a great thing. But then there's the other side of software, the other side that we rarely think about. Software enables. It enables harassment and abuse. Any software with human interactions is a greenhouse for harassment. This includes important networks like Facebook or Twitter, and any other software with built-in human interactions. 40% of adults on the internet have experienced online harassment. Widespread harassment and abuse have made these important technologies unusable for many people. Numerous people, like people of color, queer, trans people, activists, and many more, had to leave these platforms because the harassment literally made them sick. Software meets users' needs, but only some users' needs. When Apple introduced its HealthKit app in September 2014, you could track everything there. Measurements, fitness, nutrition, sleep, vitals, but not your period. It took Apple 1 year until they finally introduced period tracking for HealthKit. And as a study from earlier this year showed, virtual assistants like Apple's Siri, Google Now, and Microsoft Cortana redirected users to help when they said they had a heart attack. But none of these assistants were able to recognize what it meant when a user said that they're being abused. And 1 in 3 women worldwide is abused at some point in her life. Software also recognizes people, as long as they're white. Face detection software in cameras can warn people when they're blinking. But it also asked Asian people if they were blinking, no matter if they were actually blinking in portrait photos or not. Other face detection software in webcams completely failed to even recognize the faces of black people. Flickr's photo tagging algorithm auto-tagged the photo of a black man with the words animal and ape. And recently, 6,000 people participated in an online beauty contest. These 6,000 people were from 100 countries worldwide. and all photos were judged by an algorithm. Out of the 44 winners of this contest, almost all were white, a handful were Asian, and only one person had dark skin, although many people of color had submitted photos. And when our software is learning, what does it actually learn? When Microsoft launched its artificial intelligence chatbot Tay 6 months ago, the bot was supposed to learn human speech patterns. Within only a few hours, the bot started posting racist, fascist, sexist, homophobic, and other tweets, and it started harassing Twitter users. And when our software helps people get access to information, what kind of information is that? Recent reports found that false or misleading content, which reinforces people's existing beliefs, received stronger engagement rates on Facebook than accurate, factual content. Algorithms became an enforcer for confirmation bias. And lastly, software empowers. It enables privacy violations and distributed denial of service attacks, or DDoS attacks. The so-called Internet of Things is a privacy nightmare. Routers, connected baby monitors, heatings, window blinds, webcams, TVs, toasters, fridges, vacuum cleaners, and many other devices are in people's homes. Estimates say that by 2020, there will be more than 20 billion connected devices worldwide. Many of these devices are unprotected, buggy, have built-in backdoors, they're open doors to hackers, and they're used for DDoS attacks. And all of these, this is a summary of the examples I just mentioned, all of these are just very few examples of what software does. Yes, there is software that does great things for people, that empowers and enables them. And many of these problematic examples I mentioned earlier have been fixed in the meantime. But none of these problems should have been there in the first place. And such issues like these keep happening. There are far too many, far too bad examples for the harm that we do as an industry. This industry is a broken system, and it produces broken output. Output that has severe consequences on people's lives. And all of us need to stop ignoring that. We need to understand every piece of software is the result of a judgment call. Every button, every word, every pop-up, every ad, every line of code. Right now, through our software, all of us are forcing our own prejudices, norms, assumptions, our racism, sexism, and our narrow views of the world on the people who use it. The software we build systematically ignores people and their needs. With the software we build, we are normalizing racism, fascism, sexism, homophobia, harassment, misinformation, and surveillance on our platforms. We are creating new realities in which all of these things are the new status quo. And that is a serious problem. We are the industry that's building self-driving cars and planning Mars missions. And we haven't even figured out how to make sure people's vacuum cleaners don't join botnets. As an industry, we love talking about the next big things that our technology could do. We love thinking and talking about artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, and Mars missions. And all of these things are great, and they're important. But by building software, we create environments. And all of us, we are the ones who are making the rules for these environments, for how they work and for whom they work. And at the same time, we lack answers to fundamental questions of the ethical implications of our work. And most of the time, we even refuse to ask ourselves questions about these implications. Building software is so much more than typing code into an editor. We are enablers. Enablers for empowerment of people and enablers for harassment and abuse. This means that we need to understand social and ethical issues. No matter if we care about them or not, ethics are built into everything we do. So we need to be deliberate about them. Ethics are moral principles that govern our actions. There are limitations for how ethical we can be in an industry that's part of capitalism. But that also means that we need to be even more aware of what we do and how we do it. Ethics in software development mean thinking past current trends and anticipating every future utilization of what we build. And as an industry, we don't care about ethics enough. And here's why. First of all, ethics are complex. They're pretty obvious in some cases like software theft or deliberate invasions of privacy. But in most cases, ethics are far more subtle. Ethics also aren't part of computer science curriculums and not built into our processes in our companies and communities. Ethics aren't a checklist, and we don't make room for thinking about them. We also don't care about ethics because ethics aren't automated. We have automation in place for showing us the technical limits of our work, for when our tests are failing and for when servers are reaching their limits. But we have no built-in boundaries for violations of our users' rights. And lastly, we refuse to understand our role. We all know the stereotypes. The stereotypes that picture us as a bunch of unathletic, uncreative loners that wear glasses, work all night, all day from a basement, probably their parents' basement, with no human interaction, whose diet is based on energy drinks and cold pizza, and who have no social life. This is actually a stock photo that I got out of that description. And all of us know that these stereotypes are wrong. But we act like they're still holding true. We are still behaving like we're just a bunch of people hacking on some cool stuff, when in fact all of us have become so privileged, so powerful, when our companies are among the most influential and most valuable in the world, and when our work has such fundamental consequences on people's lives. Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before. Yeah. But your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should. That's probably one of the most famous quotes from Jurassic Park. As people in this industry, we have power, and with great power comes great responsibility, and that's a platitude, but we even fail at acknowledging that very simple truth. Right now, all of us are so preoccupied with whether or not we can that we don't think whether we should. Every one of us has impact on our companies, communities, and this industry, and on the software we build. No matter who you are in tech, at what point you are in your career, or what you're working on, you can make change happen. And we need you to make a difference. The people using technology need you to make a difference. Use the power you have for good. Use your power to debug this industry and to make sure it generates meaningful output. Over the next minutes, I'll show you 5 things you can do to debug the tech industry. Step 1 to debugging the tech industry is understanding ourselves. As people in tech, most of us are extremely privileged. Having privilege means that we can exist in our society and this industry with ease and gain influence without scrutiny or suspicion, which gives us advantages relative to other people. Our privilege comes from factors like our gender, ethnicity, class, education, upbringing, physical and mental health, and many more. Privilege is the human version of "but it works on my machine," or "it works in my life." Privilege puts us in a position where we don't see problems that our work causes and don't see problems in this industry because we're not personally affected by them. We need to work through our privileges. We need to understand that not everyone has what we have, that not everyone has the money, electricity, high-speed internet, education, and so many more things that all of us are just used to. And we need to understand that not everyone has the same privileged position in society that many of us have. We need to understand that what's safe and easy for us is not safe and easy for many other people. And it has to become visible in our work that we understand that. We need to question our beliefs, our reasoning, and our assumptions. And we need to stop assuming that everyone is like us. In our work and interactions with people, we also need to address our biases. Biases shape our decisions, and they're based on our stereotypes, assumptions, knowledge, and cultural norms. We need to be very conscious and deliberate about how and why we make decisions, and about how we interact with people. Our privileges and biases are baked into everything we do, and they contribute to the horrifying output of the tech industry. Same goes for our collective lack of empathy. Having empathy means being able to relate to another person as though they were us. And as an industry, we are lacking empathy. But empathy is the main determinant for how usable, how safe, and how meaningful our technology is for other people. As people in tech, empathy is our responsibility. Step 2 to debugging the tech industry is we need to care about our work and its impact. We need to understand that we are not neutral, that our code is not neutral, our algorithms are not neutral, our technology is not neutral, our work is political. We need to learn about ethics and the ethical implications that our work has on people. And we need to make room for thinking about ethics in our companies and communities. And we need to ask questions that challenge the status quo. Yesterday morning on my way here, I got coffee from a place around the corner. And this is what it said on the cup. If you have any questions, we will be happy to provide full and detailed... Oh, sorry, that was completely wrong. So I'm doing that again. If you have any answers, that's where I'm going. We will be happy to provide full and detailed questions. Else the rest of this talk is not going to make any more sense. So I saw that and took a photo of it. You can see the CSS sign up there, actually. And like the people at this coffee place, and probably also this cup of coffee, I don't have answers for you. But over the next minutes, I'll pose a number of full and detailed questions. Questions that challenge the status quo. I want to encourage you to think about these questions and discuss them with the people you work with, and here are a few of them. When we're working at companies or when we're part of communities, who's working there? Are there people who are different from us? Are our organizations inclusive? Are the people working at our company as diverse as the user base of our software? If not, why is that? Do our organizations have ethical guidelines for how they work and who they work with? When we develop software, do we move fast and break things? Even though that can mean we expose our users to data breaches, bugs, and security issues? Does our software actually do what it claims? Or do we trick users into doing things that they wouldn't want if they were aware of it? Do we really think through whether and how our software could be misused? And when we fix bugs, do we fix bugs of high-paying customers first? Or do we treat them all equally? And how do we decide whether a bug is serious enough to be fixed? Is our software accessible? If not, why? And who do we exclude by not making it accessible? When we build interfaces and algorithms, which information do we display to people? Is that information factually true? What do we allow users to see in an offline state? How much data do our apps consume? And what does that mean for who can actually financially afford to use our software? When we collect user data, do we only collect what we really need? When we store data, could this data be used to track or profile people like protesters or activists? What could happen to our users if our data is obtained by someone with bad intentions? Which risks are we exposing our users to? And when we keep log files, are they adequately protected? Who has access to them? And when we say we delete data, do we actually destroy it? What do we do when we're asked to hand over user data to authorities like governments? Regulations that are currently in place to prevent unreasonable demands can change any time, and it's a safe bet to say that they will. What will we do when we receive demands to hand over data? And lastly, do we consider that paradigms around the software we build, the data we store, can change any time? In many countries across the globe, fascism is on the rise again. Knowing that, what will we do? All of these are the questions I just asked. And these are just a few of the questions that I want to encourage you to ask yourselves. These questions are important. We need to discuss them with our coworkers, our managers, the people in our communities. And we all need to work on finding answers to them. This is what the second step to debugging the tech industry means. We need to care about the impact of our work, and we need to ask questions that challenge the status quo. This is urgent because people's lives are at stake. Step 3 to debugging the tech industry is we need to rethink the way we work. The output of our work is not just about an app we work on. It's about what it enables people to do, what it empowers them to do, and what it exposes them to. We need to approach our work holistically. We need to understand which environment our software creates and how this environment impacts its users. Therefore, we also need to actually understand the people who use our software, and we need to get better at communicating with them. Step 4 in debugging the tech industry is every one of us needs to foster change in our companies and communities. This industry has an enormous problem with diversity and inclusion. In Europe and Australia, 70% of people working in tech are men. The numbers of women, people of color, lesbian, gay, bisexual, intersexual, trans and queer people or non-binary people in tech are incredibly low. Diversity could be our greatest strength. Software development is an act of representation, and to adequately represent the users of our software, this diverse user base, we need diversity in our organizations. But all of us are failing at this representation role right now. We need diversity in our industry to show that we respect all our users, their needs, their value, their safety, and their humanity. This is why every one of us needs to support diversity in our companies. We need to make sure that our companies hire people who are different from us, different in genders, ethnicities, backgrounds, skills, upbringing, and so many other factors. We need to get diverse groups of people into tech, and we need to make sure to include them. We need to make sure that our workplaces are inclusive for diverse groups of people, and that our communities are safe, respecting spaces for everyone. Diversity and inclusion are our responsibility towards everyone in tech and towards our users. Step 5, and the last step for debugging the tech industry. We need to support others who work on debugging this industry. Support activists and organizations that work on diversity and inclusion in tech, organizations that care about mental health and social justice in this industry, organizations that work on privacy tools and user advocacy. We need to give our time, knowledge, technical skills, and our money to support them. And we need to become allies. We need to stand with people and organizations fighting for change in this industry. GuideToAllyship.com is a fantastic open source resource by Emily Lamont about how to be an ally, and I want to strongly encourage you all to read it and to become allies. To summarize, in order to debug the tech industry, we need to understand ourselves and our role, develop empathy, care about how we work and the impact of this work. We need to ask questions that challenge the status quo. and we need to foster change in our companies and communities. All of us need to do that, and we need to do it right now, because this is about the future of technology. This is a talk about debugging the tech industry. And debugging the tech industry is about you and me. What we have now is a chance to build something bigger, something that lasts. What we have now is a chance to debug the tech industry and make it a better system that is about justice and equality. We need to make this industry a better place for everyone, so that we can build technology that is for everyone. Technology that enables, empowers, and helps people. Technology that is meaningful for people and that solves many of the problems that humanity is facing right now. We all need to stop hiding behind our screens and start caring about what we do to people. Now is the time to debug the tech industry. This is the biggest and most important task that all of us have as people in tech right now. And the question is, when we debug the tech industry, will you join us? Thank you.